Hey Valley Middle School, welcome back to another math lesson. Tonight we're going to be learning how to multiply decimals, but first let's start off with something just for fun. How many actors have played James Bond in the official movie series? Now I'm talking Hollywood, not community theater, so Uncle Bob's appearance as James Bond doesn't count. We'll get that answer and more when we finish the video. Tonight officially our target is 2.48. I can multiply decimals. Let's do this thing. Alright, some must-know stuff. You're going to have to know how to multiply tonight, so I'm going to kind of review that as we go. So if you think I'm going too slow sometimes, remember, I'm reteaching some people how to multiply. So we're going to multiply as usual, then we're going to count the decimal places on top in the problem, and then we're going to move the decimal in the answer that same number of places. Here's a quick example from the book. 3.77 times 2.8. Well, I set my problem up 3.77 times 2.8. And then I multiplied away. I started here at the 8. 8 times 7, 8 times 7, 8 times 3. I got 3,016. And I zeroed down. And then I multiplied then 2 times 7, 2 times 7, 2 times 3. And I ended up with 754 plus the 0 was 7,540. I added those two together and I got 10,556. All of that was just multiplying as normal. Now we have to count the decimal places. So up on top I have 1, 2 decimals plus a third, so I have a total of 3 decimal places. So I come down to the bottom, and my answer, here's where the decimal would be, and of course it's there in any number that doesn't have a decimal. And I just move it the same number of places, I move it back to the left. 1, 2, 3. So 3 to the right, 1, 2, and 3. 3 decimals on top, 1, 2, move the answer 3 places to the left on the bottom. And there you get your answer, 10.556. Let's start off tonight with a word problem about Tara. Tara bought 3 Lululemon headbands on the clearance rack for $9.22 a piece. How much did she spend? Well, we got $9.22 times 3 equals, we're not sure. So I set it up as a normal problem. I left my decimal in, and I just ignore it. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 9 is 27. So I have 2766. Yay, I'm done. No, you're not. That was just the first step. Now we have to count the decimal places on top. So I have 1, 2 decimals on top. So I go down to the answer, 2766, and I move it back 2 places. 1, 2. And that makes much more sense. It's 27.66 or $27.66. I always like to check and just see if the answer makes sense. $9 times 3, 27 bucks. We're good to go. All right. Here we go. Let's try some problems. I'll work a couple with you. We have 13.1 times 0.5. Well, go ahead and multiply as normal. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Get my 5, and then I got to carry the 10, carry the 1. So now I have 5 times 1 is 5, plus that 1 would be 6. 655. Now step 2 was count those decimal places. Whoops. Gotta get that guy. So I got 1. And I've got 2 decimal places on the top, so I move that answer 2 decimal places on the bottom for an answer of 6.55. Now, does that answer make sense? Well, yeah, it does. You got 13.1 times 5, so that's like half of 13, which is 6.5. Yes, my answer is very close. I am good to go. All right, let's try another problem. 2.13 times 3.1. All right, well, we start over here. 1 times 3, of course, is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I'm going to be multiplying over here from the 10 spot, so I zero down. Okay. 3 times 3 is 9. Get my 9. Sorry, I'm a neat freak. 3 times 1 is 3. And 3 times 2 is 6. All right, so I've got those two done. Now I've got to add everything up, so let me get my addition bar and addition sign. So if I add those two numbers up, I'm just going to do it the fast way. Maybe. I get 6603. All right, now I got to come back up to the top here. And see, I had 1 decimal spot here, and I got to grab this double here because I had 2 on the top. So I have a total of 3 decimal places there. So I just grab this one here, slide it right into place. I have 6.603. Now you got to ask yourself, does that answer make sense? Well, let's just think about it. You basically got 2 times 3. And that equals 6, right? So yeah, you've got a little change here and a little change here. So yes, my answer makes total sense. Okay, time for you to try some. I've got 3 problems, small, medium, and large. Here's the small one. Go ahead and give it a shot. Okay, let's see how you did. If you multiply correctly, your answers will look something like this. And then we have to deal with the decimals. So I got 1 decimal spot here. I got 1 decimal spot here. So I got a total of 2 on the top. So that means I have to move it in my answer 2 places. So your answer should have been 2.73. Okay, let's see. Does that make sense? Well, this is about 1.5 times 2. 1.5 times 2 would be 3. So yeah, my answer of 2.73 does make sense. All right, now on to the medium problem. All right, lots of decimals, but I think you can handle it. Go ahead and give this one a shot. Pause the video. I see dead people. Let's see how you did. Well, if you did all the work right, you'd have ended up with 20,412, but you have 5 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top, so you've got to move that decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to the front of that number. 0.20, what does that even mean? Well, if you just think about those first 2, it's like 20 cents, right? Well, let's see, does it make sense? Well, it's like 25 cents times less than 1. So we know that our answer is going to be a little less than 25 cents. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, I think putting kind of some reality to your answer and thinking about money on decimals always helps me. I think it'll help you too. All right, here's a pretty challenging problem. It's 3-digit by 3-digit. Go ahead and give it a shot. Oh, don't. You can do it. All right, let's see how you did. All right, if you did it all, you would have had 3 numbers all the way, and you 0 down in the second, and you put 2 zeros down in that third number, because now you're multiplying over here by the hundredth spot. You'd end up with 127,050. But now we got some serious decimals to deal with. So let's see. I got 2 on the top here, and then I've got 2 on that number there. So I have a total of 4 decimal places. So I'll take and slide that into my number. And you can see where I actually end up with 12.7050. Okay. Now, if you do it in a calculator, they're going to drop this last 0, and it's just going to look like 12.705. And that's just fine. Does it make sense? Well, let's see. Let me grab this guy here. I'm going to have to move these guys out of the way. You got 1 times 8 would be 8. And then you've got about half times 8, which would be about 4. So you have about 12 as our estimate. Yes, our answer of 12.750 does make sense. All right, I think you are ready for the ticket to the show. Here they are, 2 problems. 3.11 times 3.2 and 7.22 times 0.43. Multiply as normal. Count the decimal places up on top. Move the decimal back the same number of places, and your answer. Okay, the trivia question. How many different actors played James Bond in the official movie series? Survey says 6. That's it. Now, I know you want to know who they are. So here they all are. This is the James Bond you know, Daniel Craig. And this guy here, some of you may have seen Timothy Dalton in some movies. George Lazenby, I don't really remember him. Sean Connery, I do remember. Roger Moore was one of the early ones as well, and then Pierce Brosnan. He was my favorite personally. So, hope you enjoyed it and learned something tonight. Enjoy. Have a good evening.